I was getting too old to play. I said, "Who are you?" and made sure I said it crossly. "Come now, Mazel," he said in Crucopian. "Surely you do not believe I will give you my real name? Why don't you call me Vulpes?" The Midlander word for fox, so he knew about Mildmay. "Very well, Monsieur Vulpes," I said, and swept him a curtsy, more to relieve my feelings than out of any real hope it would annoy him. "Now that I know who you are, may I ask what you're doing in my dressing room?" "Lieutenant Vulpes, please," he said finickingly. "And I should think that would be obvious, Mademoiselle Cressida. I have come from Major Goliath." "Of course you have," I said, all weary irony. He couldn't tell that my mouth had gone dry. "General Mercator is dead, then?" I had prayed, actually prayed, that when Mercator died, his spy master, Louis Goliath, would be caught in any purging Mercator's successor decided to do. Clearly, I was not that lucky. General Parsifal's Kai Fetus arrived this morning. Gemma Parsifal. A great many people must still be smarting from the debacle of Malkar Gennadion if Gemma Parsifal had been appointed to the generalship. "What do you want?" Vulpes shrugged fussily and said, "Information." "What sort of information?" "Useful information. Will anyone bother us here?" "No," I said, "and if you're waiting for me to invite you to sit down, you're going to be standing an awfully long time." "Temper, temper," he said, and wagged a chiding finger at me, sitting down on the less rickety of my two chairs. I wanted to force-feed him that finger, and the hand it was attached to, but he was a wizard. I'd never even get close to him, and coming as he did from Louis Goliath, anything I did to harm him would only rebound tenfold onto my own head, or someone else's. But I didn't have to roll over and show my belly either, and there was some value in playing the thing grimly out. No shortcuts. "Can you prove that you are what you say you are?" "And what is it that I say I am, Mademoiselle Cressida?" "A creature of Louis Goliath's." His smile disappeared, and I was glad to see it go. "I am no one's creature, Mademoiselle, but I am here on Major Goliath's behalf. Will his seal be sufficient proof?" "It will do," I said negligently, as if he bored me. He took a folded half-sheet of paper out of his pocket. He had lifted the seal cleanly, and it was Louis Goliath's signet all right, that thing that looked like a badly drawn wheel but was really a spiderweb. "And I have a token for you." He was smirking again as he handed me a grubby slip of paper. I gave it only a glance, only enough to know who had written those straggling words. Nothing more. I inspected the seal with far greater care, then gave Vulpes a long, slow, considering look, the sort my grandfather had used to spectacular effect on wives and children and intransigent players. It made Vulpes fidget. "Oh, very well," I said, turning away from him indifferently. "I don't suppose you have either the skill or the balls to have forged Major Goliath's seal." And then, as if I'd forgotten about him entirely, I sat down at my dressing table and began repinning my hair. Vulpes's face, as reflected in my mirror, was a treat. I'd learned a lot about wizards from observing Felix Harrowgate over the past 2 years, and one thing I'd learned was that wizards were completely unprepared to have an animer ignore them. They didn't know what to do with it, especially wizards who had spent any amount of time in Mélusine, where the Cabbaline wizards were marked by their rings and barbaric tattoos, and where the common people were deathly afraid of them. I'd found, though, that compared to old-school Eusebian wizards, Cabbalines were a collection of indolent and good-natured tabby cats, and Vulpes, for all his swagger, was not a Eusebian of the old school. He was not Louis Goliath. If he had been Louis Goliath, he would have had the sense to outweight me. I was the one with the performance of Barent the King that evening. I was the one who had to placate him to get him out of my dressing room. But he let himself be rattled into forgetting that. He said in a hard, falsely nonchalant voice, "I believe you know Gideon Thraxios." "I do," I said. I did not turn away from the mirror. "What do you know about him?" "He's a refugee from the Bastion. His tongue was cut out, so I assume he's one of those cultists." I made sure I continued to sound bored, half distracted, as if it all meant nothing to me. "And?" Vulpes prompted, confirming my suspicion that he had come from the Mirador. He knew perfectly well what "and," or he wouldn't be trying to make me tell him. "I didn't realize your curiosity was vulgar," I said. Dear God, if I sounded any more bored, I'd have to pretend to fall asleep. He's Felix Harrowgate's love.